Hi, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another great edition, the return of the WSE Lounge. I know it's been a while. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Without any further ado, I want to welcome my guest today. He is an actor, he's a writer, he's a director, among other things. And he's also known to you right now on General Hospital as Grant Smoltz. Please welcome the one and only actor David Lautman to the WSE Lounge.
Hello. Thank you for having me. This is so cool.
Oh, you're more than welcome, and I am honored to have you on the show. It's great to have you on. And before we get into General Hospital and all that great stuff, I know that you grew up in Los Angeles, California. You were actually born in Los Angeles.
That's right. Yeah, it's kind of strange from what I understand. Growing up here, you meet lots of people in the industry, and especially if you're working here, right? But what you end up seeing is that most people come here from other states to pursue, or even countries, as well, to pursue entertainment. And it's like you would think that an LA native would have the common sense to do anything else, but nope, here I am. I joke. My dad actually is kind of what got me into the industry. I grew up watching him perform on stage. He's an actor. He's still acting, and so he inspired me, honestly, to be an actor. And I kind of fell in his footsteps. Like specifically, he started in the theater route. Like he is most known for his work on Hair, the original Broadway production of Hair.
Oh, wow.
And so growing up, I would go to reunion shows. And I remember, like, anytime they had the nudity, like my brother and I are, we had our eyes covered. My dad would cover our eyes, which, it makes sense. But yeah, so that's that was what my journey was. I honestly, I started in the theater department, and, my first show was the old Scottish play back in middle school. Also, it's called Macbeth, right? As long as you're not in a theater, that's the superstition. So you can't say the word Macbeth in the theater; it's bad luck. But we're outside of the theater right now, so I think it's okay.
Okay.
So that was my first play, and I did that in middle school, and I remember just feeling so like, I think it was when the crowd, everybody was just laughing because I was playing a comedic character. If people are familiar with the show, it's I was playing the drunken porter, and it's a comedic bit. And I remember just all the kids and the teachers and the parents laughing, and it was a very powerful feeling and a visceral experience. And I know that's when I kind of got the acting bug, was then, and then obviously after that I started taking it a little bit more seriously. Like in college is when I really kind of got into the theater program at Los Angeles Valley College. Was doing shows there, and then outside of theater, and then slowly kind of working my way outside the theater department into commercials, TV shows, and movies. So that's a little bit of my journey.
Okay, now speaking of commercials, I know that you have done over 100 commercials. That is unbelievable.
No, I've been really blessed to be working in the commercial space. Like at this point, I feel like it's my bread and butter. Like I love doing commercials so much. It's quick. You're in and out. Generally the pay is pretty decent, and you meet a lot of really cool people. And not only that, I think probably more importantly is you build relationships with filmmakers. And I know that I did a movie maybe a couple years back, and that was because, like, not even a commercial that I was in, but a friend of mine who we have the same manager, she had auditioned for this director to be in a commercial for like Pachanga Casino. And she actually didn't even get the commercial. She was just put on a veil, but the director remembered her. And when he made this movie, he had a role in mind for her. So long story short, not only did she get in, but then, the director was talking with my manager and found out that there were other roles that they were still casting. So then I got to, so he pitched me, I got to send in a tape, and then I was out in Michigan for about a month filming a movie, like an indie horror comedy. So, and that's all because of a commercial that I wasn't even in. So yeah, I think it's all about relationships, and doing commercials is great for relationships, and also, I mean, to build your reel, you know, you can get like some cool footage from commercials too. So.
Oh yeah, and you know, I guess it goes being in the right place at the right time. I mean, as you said, you know, your friend, you know, got a role in the commercial, and then turn around, you got a role in the commercial, and I mean, so it pays to sometimes be in the right place at the right time, you know, auditioning.
Exactly. Yeah, my manager kind of has the mentality of like, unless you're so busy that you can't accept just any job, you should. So in other words, like, you know, once you get to a place where you're so busy that you can't do these, like, you know, little low-paying jobs or the low-hanging fruit, so to speak, of acting, then it's like that's the point where you know, like, okay, now like you're leveling up because you're in a position to, as opposed to a lot of times actors will kind of maybe out of I think it might come from a sense of ego or entitlement or something like that, where they're like, oh, you know what, I'm just going to turn this down because it's not enough money or whatever it is, or maybe like it's not a cool enough project, and they just judge. There's a lot of judgment towards project and resentment unless it fits with their preconceived notions of their worth. But the truth is that I think you shouldn't be attaching your worth to jobs. You know, it's like, yeah, I think that's when people get in trouble is like, oh, you know, if I do this, you know, student film or short film, you know, it doesn't pay that much, and it's like, oh, then people must not value me. You know, it's like, no, that's not how it works. It's like people value people that are working. So just if you're working consistently, people will value that. So that's kind of been our, you know, methodology with my management company that I'm a client with, and yeah, I feel like it's something that actually has really helped my career.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like you were saying on that, I mean, like for instance, I'm just gonna throw out an example. Say for instance, somebody like Pauly Shore, you know, if he said, hey, you know, because I'm Pauly Shore, you know, I'm gonna get in this movie and I'm gonna be in this movie with Willie Nelson, you know, but you know, you can't do that because you know, like you said, the value, it doesn't matter who you are or the value of who you are. If you're auditioning for a movie, commercial role, whatever, you're not going to get that role just because of who you are. I mean, you got to put in the work, got to put in the effort, and you got to show that you mean business on this particular job you're auditioning for.
It's true. And you know, I think what a perfect example of that is if your audience has seen Pulp Fiction, which I'm sure they have. If they haven't, it's a great movie. Quentin Tarantino. It actually kind of transitions into a story that I'd be interested in sharing. But the main role is played by Samuel L. Jackson, and initially he actually didn't realize that Quentin Tarantino wanted to have him like come in and read. So I think what actually ended up happening was Tarantino was like, hey, you know, I'd like to kind of go over the script with you. Maybe he wasn't completely clear about what that meant. And Samuel L. Jackson just thought like, oh, okay, yeah, so I'll go over to his place and we'll just kind of read through the script, no big deal, right? Like, don't have to do like all this prep. It's more like just to kind of hear the words out loud, almost like a table reading, right? Well, come to find out that like maybe, you know, you flash forward a few months or weeks, and he hears that somebody else got cast in this role, right? I think Jules is the name of his character in Pulp Fiction. So he's freaking out. He's like, wait, what? Like, that was my role, but what happened? And, you know, so he finds out, like, oh, yeah, well, Tarantino, he thought that was your audition. And so it wasn't really up to snuff. And so another actor came in and did a better job. In fact, this actor is in the movie. He plays the bartender. And he originally had the Samuel L. Jackson role.
Oh, so wow.
What Samuel does is he comes back to Tarantino. He's like, listen, let me do a proper read for you. I actually didn't realize that was kind of a thing. Like you were kind of looking at that as like what a final performance might be like. That was nowhere near it. So let me come back in and let me win you over, and the rest is history. And it's like one of his most iconic roles, I think. So yeah, it's like, so that's a perfect example of like, just maybe some people would think like, oh, because you're a named talent, you can rest on your laurels, but not true. There's going to be someone hungrier who will come, and and they've got the reps. They're like talented, and they can steal it away from you. So you got to always be on your toes, no matter what level you're at. And actually, kind of on a side note, what I was going to say about like how this kind of leads into another story is, out of college, I met an actor named Dan White, who General Hospital fans might remember him as Elijah Crow. And
Elijah Crow. I've heard that name. I've heard that character name.
Yeah, so I think he did about like 18, almost 20 episodes of the show. And actually, like me, we both started off as like kind of big roles, like just like 1 or 2 day commitments initially. I think for his character, they actually did say that there's a possibility of coming back. For me, I don't think they actually said it. I think it was just like, oh yeah, like maybe a 1 day thing, and that was supposed to be it. But to get back to college, we did a show together called Rabbit Hole by David Lindsay Bear. And in that show, we got really close. I played this college. I played a high school student who is gay from school. And what happens is Dan White, the friend who plays Elijah Crow on the show, his son in the show is like chasing the dog, and somehow the gate opens, and the kid runs out chasing the dog, and the dog like runs into the street, and I don't see the kid. The kid comes out of nowhere. I run him over, and accidentally kill this child.
Oh man!
It's like, so it's it was a very dramatic show, and it's a drama play. And I remember in the prep for it, we had a great director, Kathy Susan Piles, and I remember that she had us do a lot of interesting exercises. Like I would have to deliver a monologue. I think first it was like I think we were either standing or sitting back to back, and I had to deliver this dramatic monologue where I tell my feelings about how I feel about this experience and how I'm dealing with the grief, and then also trying to kind of, apologize, even though there's no real words you can say for, killing someone's child like that. There's nothing you can really say, but I remember that it was a very, Dan and I, we really bonded in that show because of like the drama. And so the way this connects to Pulp Fiction is that after we did that show, there was another show that he became involved with that was called Pulp Shakespeare. And this was Pulp Fiction, Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction as if told by William Shakespeare, right? And when that show started to get ramping up for production, he told the director, like, hey, you got to see this guy, David. Like, he's going to be great. So I got on board with that. And honestly, it was one of the coolest shows I've done in theater because, if not just for the fact that it was really a lightning in a bottle show. Fans of Shakespeare and fans of Tarantino were both like delighted, and honestly, like almost every performance was sold out. We started in LA, we played in a few different theaters in LA, and then we moved to New York, and that was a great experience for me. I spent about a year with the show in New York. We were at like the Cherry Lane Theater, Soho Playhouse, and yeah, so it was an amazing experience, and that's how I got connected with Dan, and it was like he brought me along for that. And what was interesting is when I got cast in General Hospital, the first phone call I made was to Dan White, because I knew he had been on it, to kind of give me the lowdown of like, hey, what do I expect? Like, what am I walking into here? So yes, and by the way, what's also interesting is that Dan White played the Samuel L. Jackson role in Pulp Shakespeare, and it also like beautifully. One of the most amazing performances I've seen. And in fact, viewers or listeners of the show right now, like there is, I think like the first 10 or 15 minutes of that show has been like leaked onto YouTube, or but I think it's actually on Dan White's channel. But we had a guy come, and then he taped it, and then like leaked it out on the internet, and then it kind of went semi-viral, got like a few 100,000 views and stuff, which is kind of crazy if you think about it, because like in this day and age, for Shakespeare to go viral kind of seems like out of the ordinary. But I think it's also partly because it was a very cult classic combination and an interesting dynamic. So
wow, that is an incredible story. Very amazing. I wanted to ask you about something else. Now, a lot of GH fans probably don't know this, but at one time, David either had a wig or had long hair, because David played Ringo Starr in a show called Yesterday.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, so that was actually the Danny Boyle film Yesterday, a Universal Pictures movie. And yeah, that was, so it's interesting, like the movie, like for people that don't know, the movie is about like, it's kind of like, hey, what if everybody forgot about the Beatles, who the Beatles were, right?
Yes.
Except for one struggling singer-songwriter. Like, what would that singer-songwriter do? Like, would they just take credit for all that music? And, it's a really interesting premise. And initially what the guy does is, he starts like using all the Beatles music to his own advantage. And part of how we play in to the show is that, and by the way, this was like a feature film that was released in movie theaters and all that kind of stuff. Ultimately, my scene was cut, but you just see me walking in, right? Like just like my boots, and then you see Paul McCartney's like bare feet on the floor, and that's all they showed. But what they actually filmed was a lot more than that. So what happens is the character, he is dealing, I think, internally with the demon of being like, feeling like he's not worthy of all the success he's having. So he has a nightmare that he's on Late Night with James Corden.
Oh, goodness.
James Corden does this thing where he's like, hey, so tell us, this music, did you really write it? Did you? Like, is this all yours? By the way, this is a terrible impression of him. But he's like, well, all right. Well, it just, on this show, we love having gaffes and goofs. And it just so happens we've got two guys from Liverpool, England. Well, let's just see how this plays out. Mr. Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr, right? And then what happens is the curtains open, and the audience is just like, they're like, what? and then so we walk down the stairs, and like everybody's staring at us. And then we go on stage, and we shake James Corden's hands, we sit down, and then we just kind of like stare at Himesh Patel's character, who is the lead in that movie, who's playing the struggling singer-songwriter. And we just kind of stare daggers into his face, like, man, so that's pretty much the scene. And what happened was it got cut to just our entrance, like just to our feet walking down. And what was crazy though was the first take we did. The extras, the whole stage or the whole studio was filled with like, I don't know, like maybe 100 or 200 people. I don't know how many it fits, but there were a lot of people, a lot of extras in there, and they didn't know what was going to happen because I think Danny wanted to get their initial reaction. And the second they said, like, they introduced us, and then the curtains pulled open. I think we got a taste. Me and the other actor, we got to take a little taste of what Beatlemania must have been like, because it was insane. Like the crowd, everybody was on their feet. They were cheering. They were like yelling. It was crazy. And I remember saying, like, man, this is insane. And ultimately, it's kind of funny where Danny was like, I think after that, Danny was like, yeah, we liked the reaction, but it's beautiful, but it doesn't work for this. You have to just be shocked, just quiet, And so the audience had to get directed not to be so like impressed, because the thing is they don't know who the Beatles are. So it's like you have to, the audience knew who the Beatles were, and then when they saw us and we were in the same costume, we had the same hair, the facial hair, the same stature, and we kind of, I gotta say, like with the hair, makeup, and prosthetics, all that kind of stuff, we didn't really have prosthetics on, but we looked very similar, I would say. and I think the audience, like, they flipped out when they saw us. It was crazy.
So the hair was a wig, right?
Oh yeah. The hair was
Okay.
definitely a wig.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I think I don't remember if they. And you know what? Not only was the hair like a wig that they kind of like painstakingly attached, almost piece by piece or whatnot, but all the clothes was from England. Like they flew, like they had like a wardrobe stylist that flew from England with all these clothes for like authentic stuff for us to wear.
Incredible.
So it was, yeah, the level and attention to detail is insane. Yeah.
Amazing. Now I want to let all the fans out there know after the next question, we will be going into General Hospital for the last few minutes. We'll be going to 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Now, David, a lot of other people probably don't know this either, but you actually were on the college team for Spring Valley for the water and polo team. So, can you tell them a little bit about that and how much strength and endurance it took to be on that?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So you know what? Growing up in LA, I feel like there's a mandatory thing where you at least have to try surfing, right? I mean, we've got beautiful beaches here in Malibu. It's amazing out here. So it's like I feel like you can't be a local and not have at least attempted surfing. So that's kind of how this started was, I'd say back in high school, I was really into like the surf culture and stuff like that. And high school, college, I was getting into it. And I remember just being out there surfing and seeing other guys that are just like, almost like surfing circles around me, right? And what I mean by that is that for people that haven't done it, like it's a very cardio intensive workout, right? I mean, you're constantly paddling. And depending on which break you're at, some breaks, like just to stay where you're at, you have to be constantly paddling, right? And then on top of that, you got to paddle just to get into the wave. So long story short, I got into the swim team and water polo teams because I wanted to be a stronger surfer. Because I was having so much fun getting out there and crushing the waves and ripping it up, tearing it up, that I just wanted to be able to do that better. So I joined the swim and water polo, or I first joined the swim team, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were out there probably, I'd say about like 2 to 4 hours every day in college. So I get there like before the sun rises. We were in the pool doing laps, and then like maybe by 8 a.m. So maybe like 6 to 8 a.m. we'd be swimming. And don't quote me on the exact times, but it definitely felt like we spent it. In my memory, we spent 2 hours like before the sun even rose, swimming in like the frigid cold waters of Los Angeles Valley Community College.
Wow.
Outdoor pool. And then after that, we would come back around like maybe like afternoon, maybe like 1 or 2 o'clock, and then we would spend another 2 hours. And after the swim season was over, our coaches were like, hey, they really just recruited everybody to be in water polo. And it's like most water polo dudes are pretty tall and jacked. I'm kind of like 5'8", normal guy, and I wasn't the shortest or scrawniest guy on the team, but I was close. I was close to being that. So I like to joke around that like I was in good enough shape to sit on the bench for water polo. But the funny thing is too, I'm also a lefty. So in water polo, lefties are really rare and very coveted. So I think that's part of why they kept me around. But then they realized that I couldn't throw for crap. So so I didn't really get to utilize that. Like, had I had more of an athletic build, I think they probably would have, doubled down on my left-hander. Yeah, but yeah, so that's kind of how I got into water polo. And yeah, I would say out of everything I've done, it's one of the most strenuous, like way more than surfing. That's like a very strenuous sport, and dirty too. Like sometimes, like during competitions, this never, you know what? I think this has happened to me during my competitions and stuff. But those guys are known for like doing dirty tricks underneath the water because if the ref can't see it, they can't call it. So I've heard of like guys having like beer bottle caps in their Speedos and then like scratching other guys with it.
Oh man.
it's just it's crazy. It's a crazy world. Yeah.
Wow. Well, Robert Palmer Watkins, that used to be Dylan Quartermain on General Hospital, he's an alumni of this show. He was on the show a couple years back, and he also does surfing. So I don't know if you two have ever got acquainted or done surfing together or not, but he does surfing
I'll have
too.
to reach out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now that I know, I'll have to reach out to him.
Yeah. So, okay, now, fans, I'm going to get into General Hospital questions. We got about 8 minutes left. I'm going to get into General Hospital questions. So, anybody has any questions, feel free and leave them in the comments section, and I'll ask David. So, David, I want to first of all ask you this question. When you first debuted on General Hospital, this is no joke. Me and my mom looked at the TV and we said, what in the world is Spinelli doing now? We thought that Spinelli was in disguise, and we thought that Spinelli was you.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, it's funny because I hear a lot of that on social media. Of so it's like, and it's funny. I'm not super familiar with it because I hadn't to be honest, before I got cast on the show, I really hadn't seen much of it. But this is something that I'm really aware of. People referencing that maybe either I am Spinelli or that I look a lot like him, or that we could team up together and stuff like that. So
or y'all could be siblings.
Huh?
Or y'all could be siblings.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? That'd be really cool. Grant Smoltz and Spinelli teaming up. I'd be down. I'm not above teaming up with Spinelli.
Now, this message is from, and I know you probably know this person. He's a former guest of the show, good friend of mine, Max Tomlin. He's the one that updates General Hospital every single day.
Yeah.
One of the smartest 7-year-olds I know. He says, his mom says that Max said to tell you that you're doing a great job of playing your role in General Hospital.
Oh, thank you.
And he said he saw you in a commercial, and he can't remember what for, but Max was screaming, "Ha ha!"
That's funny. Yeah, I think so. I'm lucky to have, or blessed to have a lot of spots on air right now. But if I had to guess, I would say the likelihood is probably the Car Guru commercials. I have I think 4 of them that are on right now in that campaign as their spokesperson. So I would guess it was probably Car Gurus. I think that's a fair assessment. But yeah, I really appreciate that comment. That's really sweet. I'm having a lot of fun, and it's interesting because getting into it, it was like I just wanted to do the best job I possibly could, and it's you're never thinking about oh, how are people going to react to this on social media, online? Are they going to like it or not? You're just more of how can I service this character and do the best job that I can? Mm-hmm. And I remember that first day on that set. I'd never been on a soap opera, and honestly, I'd never even been on a soap stage. I've been on other stages before, but I was nervous.
Now, I want to stop you there for just a second. You said you'd never been on a soap opera, but if you think back, I know you made a guest appearance on the new 90210 when it came on. So you would kind of say 90210 was kind of a nighttime soap opera in a way.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah. Although I feel like that is so long ago that I kind of don't count that. Yeah. So I think, and the thing is, being in a more substantial type of character and role, I think it's just a completely different experience. And so, yeah, I just remember wanting to do the best job I can and trying to, not really think too much of oh, are people going to like this or hate it or whatnot. I just kind of, do the best, and just kind of do some backstory work on the character so that way it pops up off the screen as opposed to just kind of a flat performance. I always try and put something, my own self into all these characters and like, oh, like how would I do it? Like if I had free reign to make this whatever I want, what would I do? And what's interesting is actually in the beginning, I would pitch the director like different ideas for the scenes, like, hey, and sometimes even during like the rehearsal, I would just improvise some endings, and then sometimes they're like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Other times they're like, no, you're not doing that. I'm like, okay, no, it's gone. Don't worry about it, So I think that's part of me. Is like I always like to kind of put my spin on it, so that way it feels more truthful to how I am as a person, not that I'm that similar to Grant, because I think we're two very different people, but I digress.
Okay, now my next question, what's it been like for you working with Alexis Davis on General Hospital?
Yeah, Alexis, so she was obviously the first, Alexis Davis, Nancy Lee Grant, she was the first actor that I really worked with on that show. And from the very beginning, it felt like the relationship was very, very warm and welcoming, and it's like, I talk about this sometimes where not every show where you meet like the principal cast, do they feel warm and welcoming. Sometimes it's like, oh, it's kind of cliquey, feels like a high school, experience where it's like, oh, do you fit in with the jocks? It's like, a lot of times that's the vibe I get, is like, oh, the principals are the jocks, and it's like, and I'm the nerd trying to fit in. That's how I feel a lot of times. But on this set, I didn't feel that at all. And she, like from day one, she made me feel so welcome. And in fact, like after we did the scene together, we were talking, like she was kind of joking around, like, oh my God, we have to have you back, like, and then I joked back, I'm like, yeah, I'm down for whatever. If you need me to clean up your office, staple some papers, do some hole punching, I'm really good at hole punching. Like, yeah, I'm down to just, do whatever. And then so we were just kind of joking around, but I feel like we had great chemistry from the start. And more importantly, I think just on a human level, we just connected as cool people, cool dudes, a dude and a girl just chilling, she would be like, Nancy would be like, did you just call me a dude? I'm like, no, I didn't. I'm sorry. Sorry, Nancy. All I'm trying to say is that I felt like we had a good vibe and connection from the start. And I feel also like she became kind of protective over Smoltz in an ironic way, where she doesn't necessarily want him to become this super villain that is just like wrecking havoc and destruction and chaos on Port Charles. So she was more like, I think she could see like, hey, I think it'll be more interesting if we add in some humanity and some positive attributes too, which is why I think you can tell that even though she doesn't always agree with Smoltz, she does care for him in a certain way, Otherwise, I think she would just slam the door in his face constantly. But she doesn't. She's like open to working with him because A, she knows that he's a good writer, but B, on some level, I think she does see that he's got the potential for good.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you two more questions, and then we're going to wrap this interview up. Unless any fans have any more questions out there, I'll be glad to send them David's way. What was it like for you working with Johnny Wachter, Brando? Because I know Brando was about to rough you up for following Sasha. So.
Right. Yeah, no, good question. Okay, so yeah, right from the bat, it's cool. I remember the first day meeting Johnny. It was like, I think we met during, like right before the blocking rehearsal with the director, which, the way it works is like, that's kind of the first time you are able to run the scene is when you get a blocking rehearsal with the director, where all your scenes for the day, you got to memorize all your blocking. So if you're in like 15 scenes or 20 scenes or whatever, or whatever, you're memorizing, you're writing everything down, memorizing all the blocking. And then maybe you got some time to go hair and makeup and wardrobe, and then you come back, you do technical rehearsal blocking for the cameras, and then they shoot it, right? So it's a very quick situation. It's very fast paced. So I met him at the blocking rehearsal, and I remember Chad was standing around, and then Johnny was there, and because I've worked with Chad like in a few episodes already, I kind of already had that familiarity. And so we were just kind of like hanging out, the three of us, for a little bit. But that's where we met. And as far as the scene and stuff, like, I told him from the very beginning, from that, like, hey, bro, like, really come at me. Like, I think it'll be fun. I want it to be exciting and like a visceral experience. And yeah, so honestly, he didn't let up. Like, Johnny came at me so strong that I was like, maybe some of that is some real fear, in Smoltz. And I know people have said that, oh yeah, it looks like you almost had a flashback to high school, like being beaten up by bullies. And I said, yeah, I think so. I think that's part of maybe Grant's like backstory, is that like he was bullied. I mean, come on, with classes like that, if he wasn't bullied in high school, in college, like, I don't know, like, the bullies weren't on their A game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, but yeah, I will say that after we did the scene, Johnny was like super cool, and like, we've even been interacting on social media and stuff like that, following each other, retweeting tweets and whatnot. So Johnny's been a super cool dude. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you're making a list of enemies. I mean, you got Michael, Sasha, Brando.
Right.
I just hope you don't run into Sonny Corinthos.
Oh man, you and me both. Yeah, I'm a little scared. And I think on Friday, Sonny was reading my work in The Invader. He was reading my 5-part feature.
about Nina. Yeah.
Yeah, my name is right there in the byline. So I'm really getting on his radar. So yeah, hopefully he sees me as a tool and not like not as a body bag.
Yeah, maybe Spinelli will stick up for you and try and be friends with you or something, and then get Sonny to hire you on to do some investigation for him. Hey, who knows?
I'd love to.
Who knows? Maybe Smoltz is going to be the one to turn from a bad guy, or a heel, as they say in professional wrestling, to a baby face, and actually be the one to uncover that Nina is the mother of Willow. I mean, who knows?
Right. Hey, that would be cool. That would be super cool. I would love to be a baby face turned from a heel. So
yeah.
It sounds great. It sounds great to me. Let's send that off to the writers' room.
Okay.
And I'll put Grant Smoltz's stamp of approval.
Frank Valentine, you listen out there? And so, is there anything that you won't get in trouble for? And I always say this when I'm talking to an actor or actress. Is there anything that you can, a sneak peek or anything you can give the fans or say that you're allowed to say about what's coming up with Smoltz?
Oh man, that's a great question. And to be honest, I think I have to have no comment, unfortunately.
Okay.
I think I can't say either way.
I understand completely on that, and I want to ask you: do you have anything that you would like to promote? Any upcoming projects? Where people can find you on social media? Go ahead and promote all that.
Okay. Yes, so I've got a couple TV shows coming out soon. Where,
Okay.
It's just like a day player, like a co-star type of role. Angeline, which is like a Peacock series. That's coming out, I think that's even coming out next week, streaming on Peacock. And then Hunters, I think maybe that's Hunters Season 2 with Al Pacino. I am in an episode of that. I believe it's called The House is the name of the episode. I think it's Season 2, Episode 7.
Okay.
So that's coming out. I don't think they've released an official date yet, but I feel like it'll be coming out this year, a little bit later this year. So those are like cool TV stuff, and then a slew of commercials. So if you enjoy watching commercials, then keep your eyes peeled. I've got some spots coming out for Xfinity. Then actually, I did a really fun spot for the Joni Bernard Foundation. which is, I know most people like the Joni What Foundation. It's actually like a no-kill cat shelter, which I think is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to be involved with them in a really cool spot where it's like a 60-second spot of showing, without giving much away, it shows cat lovers throughout history. And with that said, I get to play, I'll say, I get to play like a knight in shining armor who's like in love with cats. So it's, I don't think that gives too much away. It gives a little tease.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so there's a lot of stuff in the works that I'm excited for. And as far as follow me on social media, I think all my handles are at David Lautman, Lautman. L for Louisiana, A for Alpha, U for Utah, T for Texas, M for Minnesota, A for Alpha, N for Nancy, David Lautman. So I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
All right, and one other thing I want to ask you really quickly, and this won't take long.
Yeah.
With you being in over 100 commercials, did you ever get an award?
What's interesting? I don't know if they have awards for actors in commercials. That would be interesting. I know that some spots that I've been in have won stuff. That I do know because they do have a lot of commercial awards, but I don't know if they necessarily had any ones for actors. But I'm going to look into that. I think I've been really blessed to be in a lot of different spots, and some spots don't even air. Like I was in the last 2 Burger King spots I've done never aired. Like one is a reason that I can't share. It doesn't have anything to do with me, but I can't share. And then the other one was a little risque, and it got shut down by the legal department at Burger King.
Oh wow!
Because the thing is, they're always pushing the bar. If you've seen Burger King commercials, they're always pushing the bar on how much they can, shove McDonald's down. It's like it's like a turf war, and it's like a gang war almost. Like they keep on drawing blood. So the commercial that I was in, let's just say we were drawing blood, and
goodness,
it was a very involved spot. And what's actually interesting about it, the reason why I bring it up is because evidently it's being used internally at the agency as kind of like a case study video. Now I don't know exactly what lesson they're trying to teach, but it's just always interesting to see how different spots are being used, and I can't help but wonder, like, if that did come out, like, would that have won like commercial awards or stuff like that? Because it's a crazy concept. I can't say publicly what it is, but it's very. We were definitely not holding our punches. Well, I'll just say that. Yeah.
Wow. Well, Sarah Tomlin, Max's mom, she said that's funny, and that is very funny. I don't think I've ever heard a story like that, and wow. Well, I want to thank you so much, David, for taking time out of your busy day to join the WSE Lounge. Thank you so much for being on, and I'll be sure and share this to your social media so you can share it to your fans, and hope you have a great day.
Thank you, likewise. Thanks again for having me, and thank you everybody for listening and watching. Love y'all.
Okay, take care.
All right, bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Grant Smoltz, General Hospital. David Lautman, who plays Grant Smoltz on General Hospital. Thank you so much for joining the WSE Lounge. And thank you, Lisa, so much for everything. Thank you so much. Lisa, thank you so much. And thank you so much to Faye Vaughn and also Lucy Grillo Faila. Hope I said that right, for watching. And Sarah Tomlin, also thank you for watching and your question. Okay, everybody, God bless you all. Take care. Have a good rest of the week. And take care of yourself. Thank you.